Welcome to Eon e-learning. This is an educational video on human rights presented by the Eon Corporation. In this video, you will learn about corporate social responsibility so that we expect you to accept and adhere Eon Supplier Code of Conduct. This e-learning consists of two parts. Part 1 explains the social responsibilities and the expected conduct of companies in the supply chain. Let's begin Part 1. What does corporate social responsibility mean to you? Let's take a look at the process of Eon product from production to the final buyer. The first step of the process is sourcing of raw materials. The raw materials are then manufactured at factory into a product, which is then stored and transported to Eon stores. This network is called a supply chain. A supply chain involves many different companies and people around the world. As you can imagine, there are many places in the chain where problems can occur. Social issues can be broadly divided into two categories: environmental issues and human rights issues. An example of a human rights issue is child labor, which still occurs in many developing countries. Examples of environmental issues include illegal deforestation to secure farmland for plantation agriculture, and drainage of wastewater from dying factories that does not meet regulatory standards into rivers. Today, many people, including employees, customers, shareholders, and residents of the communities in the supply chain, are demanding companies to act in a socially responsible way. Through their business activities, companies are expected to work towards creating a better society and solving social issues. Supply chains have become more complex and diverse due to cost competition, risk diversification, or searching for cheap raw materials and labor costs. In addition, many supply chains have grown global and exist across many countries and regions of the world. In other words, all companies connected in the global supply chain is likely affected by the social issues arising in the world. So what kind of social issues are there in a supply chain? In 2014, the British newspaper The Guardian reported a human rights violation on a fishing vessel in Thailand. Illegal immigrants from neighboring countries were hired to work on the vessel and catch fish to feed the farm shrimp grown in Thailand. It was a very serious violation of human rights. The article disclosed the names of several major retailers in Europe and the United States, which led to boycotts by consumers. Even if not directly involved in such scandals, companies that procure or sell raw materials are often considered responsible for scandals that occur in the supply chains. In other words, Companies are not fulfilling their corporate social responsibilities unless they ensure the primary suppliers and sub-suppliers in their supply chain of raw materials are also acting ethically and socially. Here is a picture from 2013 of a collapsed building in Bangladesh that housed several sewing factories. The workers kept working there even though they knew the building was badly damaged, because their manager threatened to fire them if they complained. As a result, the disaster caused 1,138 deaths. After that, a movement that prioritizes employees over delivery time and cost has developed in the apparel industry. So far, you have studied some examples of human rights violation. Here we introduce the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is important in defining what human rights are. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the United Nations in 1948, stated that everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration, without distinctions of any kind. 30 articles are considered the minimum common standard of achievements of all people and all nations. For example, Article 1 states that we are all born free. We all have our own thoughts and ideas. We should all be treated in the same way. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards each other in a spirit of brotherhood. Article 3 states that we all have the right to life and to live in freedom and safety. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. Also, under Article 26, everyone has the right to an education. Human rights are essential, and we cannot live like a human being without them. However, there are still countries and regions that do not fully respect human rights, so we have to protect them in our business activities. Elementary education shall be compulsory. Technical and professional education shall be made generally available, and higher education shall be equally accessible to all on basis of merit. Companies are engaged with employees, business partners, raw material producers, local residents, and so on through their business activities. Therefore, it can be said businesses directly or indirectly affect human rights. In 2011, the United Nations Human Rights Council approved the guiding principles on business and human rights. It endorses to implement the United Nations Protect, Respect, and Remedy framework to states and enterprises. The state's duty to protect human rights. The corporate responsibility to respect human rights. Access to remedy for victims of business-related abuses. Let's think about corporate responsibilities. There are three major requirements for companies. First, companies develop and disclose their human rights policies and commit to fulfill their business and human rights responsibilities in their business activities. It can be said that corporate human rights issues are also management issues. If management express their policies to respect human rights both internally and externally, they are more likely to be adopted by company stakeholders. In addition, companies can keep the transparency of their business activities and the credibility from society by disclosing and sharing the activity status towards the public. Second, they continuously evaluate the impact of their business activities on human rights. Disclosing and sharing the information are also requested. Companies are required to evaluate and correct the negative impact of their business activities on human rights in order to achieve the activities under their human rights policies. First, you must identify human rights issues that may affect your business activities and think about not only your own employees, but all of the people working in the countries and regions in your supply chain. Some issues may already be known, but there are many potential issues that may occur unexpectedly. Therefore, it is necessary to actively search for problems by doing things such as listening to what the employees, your business partners, and local residents say, or by analyzing past issues objectively. You can then determine how much those issues negatively affect the people or society. The following figure shows the concept of assessing human rights risk. First, imagine the severity of the impact on the victims. The higher the position in this table, the higher the severity. Second, consider how strongly the issue is connected to the company. In this table, the connection gets higher as you move to the right. It shows whether it is just an effect on your company or if your company is directly involved. The red area is considered the highest risk of human rights violation. When it comes to human rights assessment, a risk that has a serious impact on human rights is assessed as high even if it only has a weak relationship to the company. You can prioritize them by analyzing the impact on your company based on the evaluation of each issue. It is important to implement plans to minimize risk of human rights violations systematically because you have limited manpower and financial resources. Finally, you determine a specific plan of corrective action and implement it. You can encourage your business partners and work with the industry as a whole in implementing the plan. Regularly performing this process can reduce or prevent the negative impact of human rights may have on business activities. The third requirement of companies under the guiding principles on business and human rights is to remedy and correct violations of human rights. If a company causes or encourages human rights violation in its business activities, it has a responsibility to take measures to remedy them. Remedies should be made available to employees. business partners, and people and organizations in the supply chain that may have potential impact. In this grievance mechanism system, a third party, unaffiliated with the company, should be involved in the grievance process to ensure protection and fairness to all users. As an example, an external organization unaffiliated with the company listened to the problem and worked to find a solution between the company and person or organization that made the complaint. Currently, this is a common business practice. Aeon is also planning to introduce this type of grievance mechanism system, so we need your understanding and cooperation. So far, you have learned about corporate social responsibility mainly related to human rights issues. To solve these issues, it is necessary for each organization to fulfill its own responsibilities and to request the cooperation of related organizations. This is exactly how a chain of social responsibility can be constructed. Aeon commits to fulfill its social responsibilities together with our business partners in our supply chain. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation. This concludes Part 1, Corporate Social Responsibility in the Supply Chain. Thank you for watching. In Part 2, you will learn about the Aeon Supplier Code of Conduct, which must be adhered to all of our business partners. Please continue to watch it.